A woman from Alabama suffered a miscarriage after being shot. And now she's being charged with manslaughter for the death of her unborn child.
If you suffer a miscarriage after being shot, you shouldn't be charged with manslaughter.
The truth is, she started the fight and she was shot by someone in self-defense. This is all anecdotal to try and draw you away from the scientific reality of it being a life. The left hates all that is good. They will declare evil good and good evil. Remember, there were states last week, like Massachusetts, legalized no restriction abortions. 10 states, D.C., now have that. You can abort all the way up to the moment of birth, well beyond viability. And John Oliver decided to run interference for it. Let's just be clear about this now. Safe, legal, and rare? Absolutely not. The left wants any excuse to abort at will, taxpayer-funded, period.
Debate life over fetus, edge cases will retort. Accountability, no such thing. All that they want is a list supporting any excuse to abort.
All the claps. Yay! Ball! So, here's the flip side of it. Check the references. We make them available every single show. Fetal personhood is this idea, and it's a legal concept now that fetuses, that babies inside the womb, have the same legal rights protections as any other people in society. 17 states, I believe, have some type of fetal personhood law on the books. Before I get to John Oliver's case, and we will rebut it, one of the first change of minds I've ever done was I'm pro-life. And I will tell you, there aren't many arguments to be made against it. And if there are any arguments that people make against the pro-life stance, they fall apart if you ask them where they line up on their abortion policy. In other words, someone might say, and I think that we should limit it, but these later term abortions are very, very rare. You go, so you're for banning all of those? They can't. That's why not a single person on the DNC will put any limits on abortions whatsoever. Not one of these people in the Kalshi odds for nominee for president or VP nominee for the DNC. Not one of them will put any limitations whatsoever.
Right.
9 months up until the second of birth. Every single one. I need to ask you, if you say that you are pro-life, or if you say that you are pro-choice, but you're like moderate pro-choice, how do you argue it logically? How do you argue that it's not a life and when it becomes a life? And this is not my own. This is something that came up a long time ago. They will always go through these arguments, those on the left, and they don't stay. It's called the SLED test. So SLED, size, being the S. In other words, they'll try and argue, well, it's smaller, so basically they're not human because they're so tiny. L is for level of development. Well, it's an earlier stage of physical or mental growth. So that's really, that's why they're not fully developed. They don't have a fully developed whatever it is. Heartbeat, they don't care. Brain, well, they don't care if you look at the laws. Size, they don't care because the law says abortion all the way through the trimesters. But even then, size doesn't determine human life. You have midgets. Level of development doesn't determine human life. You have retarded people. Environment. They'll say, well, it's because it's in the womb versus outside the womb. Well, that doesn't matter, because if a baby is being born and it's still inside the birth canal and it gets strangled by an umbilical cord, you do everything you can to save it. Environment can't make it a human or not a human. Degree of dependency. They'll try and say, well, it's relying on the mother's resources. Okay, it's always relying on the mother's resources. Even if you're feeding it formula, you have to be breastfeeding it afterward. And by the way, even if it's relying on the mother's resources, it has its own heart, it has a separate set of organs, so okay, we have to apply that across the board. Does a mom have 2 hearts? Is she a fish? Does the mom have 20 fingers, 20 toes? Does the mom have both a penis and a vagina? I know that one's complicated for the left. So, SLED. The only logical line is, unique DNA created, new life. That's my opinion. People like John Oliver think that actually you're not a baby ever until someone feels like it. That brings us to Claim Truth. All right, let's let John Oliver make his first claim.
I want to talk about something called fetal personhood, the concept that a fetus is, from conception, a separate, unique human with its own rights distinct from the person it's rather unavoidably inside. The obvious consequence of these laws is that they treat the individual carrying the fetus as something less than a full human. And the very moment you're pregnant, you become merely a means to an end.
So he's trying to claim that they're second-class citizens, it's a parasite. Margaret Cho made this. Here's the truth. Recognizing a second life just means that the law now has to recognize 2 lives to protect. And by the way, this is something that's very common in the law. This would be actually the only scenario where you wouldn't do it. So, you look at, do tenants' rights. make landlords second-class citizens. That's why we have squatters' laws, and we have owners' rights. Do employee rights make employers second-class citizens? I mean, we constantly have to balance competing interests and rights in the form of common laws that we have as a society. Here are some other anecdotes that he uses, all references in the description. Next claim, and notice the images and the women that he uses. Makes a claim here based on an anecdote that a woman was charged with manslaughter because she miscarried after being shot. That would sound terrible.
A woman from Alabama suffered a miscarriage after being shot, and now she's being charged with manslaughter for the death of her unborn child.
Wow, that is bleak. If you suffer a miscarriage after being shot, you shouldn't be charged with manslaughter. That's one of those sentences I never thought I'd end up needing to say out loud.
Now, don't judge that lady by the picture. Do
That's
not
right.
judge a book by its cover. But the truth is, she started the fight and she was shot by someone in self-defense.
Well, son of a gun.
Well. Was it her husband, Black Chucky?
And here's the thing. The DA dropped the charges against a person less than a week after her arrest. But he just doesn't. This is all anecdotal to try and draw you away from the scientific reality of it being a life. Here's the next claim that he makes based on an anecdote that here's a woman, second-class citizen, if she's carrying a baby, parasite. She was charged with abuse of a corpse just because she miscarried.
Brittany Watts, a 33-year-old black woman, says she went to the hospital multiple times after bleeding during her pregnancy. Watts returned home where she suffered a miscarriage. Now she's being charged with abuse of a corpse.
Yeah, okay. So here's the truth. She wasn't charged for the miscarriage. She was charged for what she actually did to the corpse, to the fetus.
Right.
So yes, miscarriage. Okay, happened. All right. Then she flushed part of the fetus down the toilet, put the rest of the fetus in the backyard in a bucket.
Because it was too big to go down the toilet.
Right. Tried to go to a hair appointment, and then friends sent her to the hospital where she admitted what she did to the fetus. She said, yeah, I tried to flush it, then I put it in my old fetus bucket. You seem shocked.
It's my
Like, y'all don't have a fetus bucket?
No, I don't.
Oh, well, must be nice up in your tower, Mr. Ivory.
Is it like
White
the Home
people call it a
Depot buckets?
compost bucket.
That's right. I'm giving back to the earth. Here you go, here's a fetus. Was charged because, as the judge stated, the fact the baby was put into a toilet was large enough to clog up the toilet, left in the toilet, and then she went on with her day. And by the way, the charges were ultimately dropped. I don't think that they should have been. Now, you notice a pattern here, right, with the first two examples that he gave, the anecdotes and the images. Black.
Also, the symbol he used.
Right.
The symbol he used at the beginning of the segment, it was obviously a pregnant black woman.
Right. Obviously.
Intentionally.
Now, abortion is intentionally racist, just to be clear. Margaret Sanger, feminist hero. Unlike Helen Keller, it's complete bullshit, never happens. Margaret Sanger was a well-known eugenicist. Let me read you her words. We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members. Here she was addressing the KKK on birth control. There you go. There's a quote right up there where she talks about forcibly sterilizing the unfit. She specifically wanted to set up abortion clinics in black areas because she wanted to exterminate the black race, as many as she could, because she believed that they were unfit, just like Hitler, just like other eugenicists. She believed that there was a way to have a superior race, and part of that involved eliminating black people. That's not by happenstance. And by the way, that's why Planned Parenthood, to this day, I don't know if they have this exact policy, they sell abortions on a sliding scale based on ethnicity and income. That's a real thing. They are like bad used car salesmen.
That's about as good looking a cervix as I've ever seen. It'd be a shame to ruin a hoo-ha setup like that with a baby. I know you only came in for a checkup now, but have you ever considered an abortion?
I wanted to keep my baby, though.
Keep my baby, sanctity of life, nothing. What you need right there is an abortion. And Crazy Pete has got some good news for you. Here at Crazy Pete's Planned Parenthood, I'm offering abortions at prices so low, people think I'm crazy. That's right. Here at Planned Parenthood, we're offering abortions on a sliding scale based on income. That means the less you make, the less you pay. Here at Planned Parenthood, we have a history of which we are tremendously proud. One where Margaret Sanger wanted to ensure quality, abortions at affordable prices set up across the lowest income earners in urban centers of America. I'm so crazy about affordable abortions that I'm practically giving them away. Hell, I might as well be throwing my profits in the trash. That's how much I care about you. Even better, if you have some ethnicity in you, we'll slash your prices in half. I'm talking to you, people of color. That's right. It's called the Margaret Sanger Special. Every Negro must go. Thanks to federal funding and our sliding scale payment system, colored folk practically pay nothing at all. Even better, if you come on down to Crazy Pete's Planned Parenthood in the next fiscal quarter, with every abortion I'm throwing in a free mammogram. But only a referral. So what are you waiting for? Lose that baby weight and let Crazy Pete and Planned Parenthood do all the heavy lifting. Come on in for a limited time only and we'll throw in a free baby coffin. Just come on down to Crazy Pete's Planned Parenthood abortion barn or call 555-5455. Safe, legal, and rare. How about fun, fast, and free? Call 555-5455 and Crazy Pete will turn that catchphrase into your reality. That's 555-5455 for the sliding scale Negro discount, free mammogram referral, and baby coffin at a price so low, you'll think I'm crazy. Crazy Pete's Planned Parenthood abortion barn, killing babies and slashing prices.
I agree with you. That's horrifying, but it makes a point.
Yeah, they'll attack you for that.
Sure,
they'll attack you. But the only thing that wasn't true was the baby coffins.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he can. He has his own thing. He can. He can sweeten the pot.
Crazy Pete's can, yeah.
He can do whatever.
He's got his own franchise there.
And for those of you who are new, and I know this was a conversation a while ago. We were talking. You do know that Planned Parenthood, where they claimed, they've never actually conducted a mammogram ever at Planned Parenthood. You know that, right?
No.
Not one mammogram machine ever. Not a thing. They'll give you a referral, which you get from your GP. But they do it so that they can rack up all of their services and say a very small percentage of their services have to do with abortion. But if you go in for an abortion and you have a referral and you have a consultation and they sterilize and they do a follow-up and they write you prescriptions for post-operative care, all of those services are counted separately and only the abortion counts as an abortion. It is a death chamber, just to be clear. We've gone over time, so we're going to continue these claims from John Oliver. But if you are not yet a Rumble Premium member, you want to continue watching with us, click that button right there. You get this wonderful hand-etched mug and 100% more show and everything else ad-free for $99 a year. It's what keeps the lights on. Or try for $9 a month. We're able to do this with so few ads and not 19 minutes of live sponsorship reads per hour because we are funded by viewers like you. Except for that one, but that one's pretty cool.
It's growing on
Gerald's fault.
It's growing on me.
It's not my fault.
I feel like they would have some differences that they need to resolve.
Get that bag.
I feel
shake
like
that ass.
Yes.
I'm liking it.
I feel like she'd be like, "Oh, you mixed my socks are pink because you mixed the red with the whites."
Ridiculous.
They got their own Kramer. It's just Kamala Harris drunk person.
Just turns her next door apartment into a brothel.
They have a Newman. They just go Trump.
Yeah, exactly right.
We should do this.
All right, here's the next claim from John Oliver. Again, based on an anecdote. This is it's really becoming paper thin. This woman who had a stillbirth was charged with manslaughter. Well, that sounds horrible.
Some of the worst consequences of everything that you've seen tonight have fallen on women like Cherry Mason, who tested positive for drugs at the hospital after a stillbirth. She wound up taking a plea deal for manslaughter as a result, not because she thought she was guilty, but because, in her words, "I knew the way that it works here in Oklahoma." She not only got a 12-year prison sentence, which took her away from her other children.
Good.
She was also required to register with the state as a violent offender upon her release.
And here's why this is important, right? Because he's making excuses for her, and we just talked about the Lindsay Clancy case. Here's the truth. Has nothing to do with fetal personhood. It was a homicide case. 36-week baby was delivered, a stillborn, I said, due to meth toxicity. She was a repeat drug offender. She had gotten help before. It was something that was on people's radar. She was initially charged with murder, and by the way, they let her plead down to a manslaughter charge. She served 4 years. I think she should serve a whole lot more, and I don't think she should ever be able to see those kids without supervision until many, many years of being clean.
Yeah.
So we don't end up with 3 kids being killed by a tweaked out meth head.
Yeah.
You think that was her first time with a run-in with the law involving methamphetamines?
No.
While being a mother? You think that was the first? No, it never is. They get let out, they get their kids back, they get to see their kids over and over.
Right.
That was not the first time. Again, I mean, I don't know this for a fact. Just going off my
she was a
feelings,
known repeat drug offender.
But I have a feeling.
So all the cases, just can you believe she was, because all she did was have a, well, no, she tried to flush her baby down a toilet and put it in a baby bucket. Could you believe all she did was have a miss? No, well, she had meth toxicity and she was known, and this was not the first time that she had gone through this. What was the other example that he used? I'm losing.
It was the lady got shot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
shot in the torso.
Can you believe this? Just because she miscarried after? No, she started a fight while she was pregnant and she got shot in self-defense. Every single one of these women are terrible people who made terrible decisions and should be held accountable. And they are getting excused by people like John Oliver, just like Lindsay Clancy with Candace Owens. We can't keep going this way. We cannot keep going on this direction where one half of this country is being absolved of all accountability. And by the way, I know not all women feel this way. Many women want to see Clancy fry. Many women think these are awful people. But you ladies need to police your community because the laws reflect feminist policy who don't believe in accountability for women. Why? Because it's predicated on the idea that patriarchy needs to be corrected. And part of that is a nuclear family. And that's why you look at divorce laws. And that's why you look at custody laws. And we've seen a consistent decay, a consistent corrosion of the nuclear family in the way that it's supposed to be. Let's paint the extreme scenarios where the left goes, oh, you mean back in the day when the mom was pregnant and barefoot at home with a Hoover, a vacuum, and then when the kids were old, she needed to take mommy's little helper, meaning she might have taken some, Dexedrine or okay. Compare that to today. Abortions on demand, miscarriages, fetus buck, or let's just compare it to 4, 5, 6 different forms of psychiatric medication and handing that child over to the state. Taxpayer funded, I'm sorry, you say pre-K. You know what? Mom, barefoot and pregnant, even taking mom's little helper, ain't any worse. At least the kids are around their mom and they weren't at risk of being killed in record numbers. Huh? I'm not saying either scenario is ideal. How about we have accountability for everyone involved? How about that? How about we stop making excuses? Hayden Panettiere had a problem with drugs. She never got it right. We should praise Klitschko for taking care of the child. I'm willing to bet that's probably pretty tough. Lindsay Clancy made some horrible decisions, and unfortunately, innocent children had to pay for it. As a society, we say, you know what? Let's make sure she fries, and let's make sure we recognize this more effectively in the future. Hey, you know how we could do that? With all these cases John Oliver laid out. Bad women. Let's say bad. Start with that. Not victim of circumstance. I'm done. I'm done with it. People say, oh, sexist chauvinist. I don't want meth babies, and I don't want 3 children killed while people raise millions of dollars for a GoFundMe because they feel bad that she's a mom and it's the hardest job in the world. Nope.
Hey, do you like what you saw? I don't know how because it's on YouTube and we have to cut all the good parts out. So you should tune in live weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern on Rumble, where we can still speak freely and even use words like and get and
So.
Whoa. You've been here this whole time?
Yeah. Snuck in.